So we have Julien Meyer and James talking. So Julien Meyer is a UCF alumni as well as James. Julien is managing director and founder at NorthStar Ventures, as well as a free tech founder with 2 exits. So James actually used to be in CEO Nights. He used to be our PR director. He met Julien through CEO Nights. Julien came to speak for us one other time. And,
unfortunately for him, I might add. That's his biggest mistake so far. So should have never met me. Sorry.
And James is head of research at NorthStar Venture, as well as founder of ThinkSpace Media. So without further ado, y'all want to
Cool. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, what's going on, guys? A couple things just before we get started here. You might want to close that door. I got a pretty booming voice, and I have a good bit of enemies at UCF still, so mostly in the faculty side of things. But regardless, another thing, is this a PG kind of easily offended group? Or are we okay with some curse words in here? Got it. New York, so it's naturally going to slip out. So Dan, thanks again for that intro. Appreciate it. I realized on the way over here, I've been coming to CO Nights to present for the better part of a decade. It really bummed me out. I already feel like I'm getting old. My stomach shows it. I want to sit in a chair, so it's a little bit depressing, but it's always nice to be back in this room. It's always nice to be back at UCF. I really, really enjoyed the CO Nights group. Actually, back in 2012, I don't know if a lot of you remember this, but this organization actually almost went under. I think it had lost its funding, right? It lost its funding, lost a number of members, and it took a lot of legwork to build it back up. So it's always nice to see, when it's active like this. So thank you guys for having me back. I think the last time I was here, I was on a panel. I remember meeting some of you. Had a really good time on that panel. But today, I was given the opportunity to kind of go back to what I normally do with these things, which is give a little bit more of a presentation on myself, who I am, and also on the topic. And the topic that I want to kind of dive into today is twofold. Well, I guess it's threefold, because we have a bonus guest here with me. So one thing that I'm going to focus on in my talk that you'll notice is just kind of this new age of entrepreneurship and some problems that have stemmed out of it. Another thing I'm going to focus on is just on how to start, how to actually start, but not just how to start, how to follow through and how to win. Yes, there is a way to win. And then finally, just a little bit about the importance of networking and how James and I got connected, because, what was it, 6 months ago you were sitting there?
7, 8 months? Something.
This is what happens when you get an analyst. I mean, my God, I can't say, I mean, honestly, even my English, I get so self-conscious around this guy. I'm like, is that the right word? Like, did I say that? Judgmental, man, I'm telling you. Anyway, so let's just go ahead and get started here. So again, a couple things. I'll start with these 2 things here, resume and my experience. I'll tell you a little bit about who I am. Want to talk about real entrepreneurship, how to start and when, and then I want you guys to get to know James a little bit, those of you that don't know him, and then we'll tell you a little bit more about our current business. We'll do some Q&A, and then we have some opportunities for you all in the local area if you're interested in working with some of our partners. So, real quick, just so that I can assess the audience here, I know this is CEO Nights, but how many people are currently running a business? Is there anybody in here running a business? No. Very cool. Keep them up. I just want to see. Of the people that haven't raised their hands, is there anybody that wants to start a business in the next 12 to 18 months?
No.
Okay, all right. Well, that's good.
I graduated in 2012, so.
It's better than when they give talks like the School of Health or whatever, and they're like, oh no, I'm just trying to get a job. And I'm like, you asked me to come in, you know? But okay, cool. So, nicer picture of me. I partially wanted to come in like this. James bet me yesterday. He goes, I bet you won't wear shorts. We were sitting at the bar. I said, don't bet me. You don't know me. I'll go in the shorts. And I came in the shorts, so I won the bet. Thanks for dinner tonight. But also because what I want to talk about is kind of this new age of entrepreneurship and the issues that we're having with kind of images with entrepreneurs and what it's done in terms of the approachableness of meeting and networking with other founders and all that. So just to show people it's not always like that. You can come in, there's a black t-shirt under this, and if it were up to me, and you didn't get so judgmental, I would have just worn a black t-shirt. But regardless, so I'm a founder. I spent 10 years starting my own companies. I was lucky enough in 2018 to be an author as well. I published a book called First Money In. If anybody in here wants it, afterwards it's about fundraising for your first business up to $50,000. I'm happy to give away a free copy if you tell me you're a UCF student. I'm the host of this podcast called Start Financial News. You'll also see me on Fox Business and CNBC in the coming year. I have a new contract coming up with them, so middle of the day, 3 o'clock, those types of shows. Now I'm an investment banker. I'm the managing director and the head of M&A at NorthStar Venture Partners, which is a group that I founded alongside some other partners. We're a tertiary firm. Obviously, came to UCF. I'm an alumni here. I did 2 degrees while I was here, hotel and event. because eventually I went on hotels. I went to Rollins College afterwards to get my MBA, and more recently I got my certificate in finance at Harvard Business School. So I'm going to walk you guys through a little bit about my entrepreneurial history to kind of just frame up this talk. When I was here at UCF, I started this company called College Tickets. All it was at the time was kind of pre-Facebook marketing. I'm sure you guys know how many people are trying social media marketing, right? People that are trying to make these branding firms, these web design firms. That's a super crowded space now. That was a super not crowded space, 10 years ago when I first started doing this. And so what we were doing is we were just doing promotion for nightlife venues, for bars, for concerts, all that kind of stuff. And what our angle is that we would give a discount to anybody with a .edu email address as long as the venue gave us the best discount possible in our contract. So we had the best discounts we could advertise that, but you had to be a student, and thus we were attracting the 18 to 24 age demographic for concert promoters, for bars, for nightlife venues, whatever. That company was the first time I got sued. That was a lot of fun. Anybody here from New York or New Jersey or that area? You guys know that damn tickets booth in Manhattan? In Times Square, you know what I'm talking about?
I've heard of it. Yeah.
Bastards, I'm telling you. I'm an 18-year-old kid. I get this fucking lawsuit. It's unbelievable. It's all because this kind of looked like them and because I spelled it the same way.
Oh,
Long story short, I lost. I had to pay a lot of money, but it sucked. So anyway, College Tickets was actually bought by College Stack. Every year it gets worse. One year I'm going to stop asking it. Does anybody remember College Stack on campus? Oh God, that's the first year. I told you guys I was bummed out on the way over here. Okay, all right. But we were big, I promise. We were a big company on campus. We were the biggest before Jesse Wolf. You guys know Jesse Wolf?
Yeah.
Before Odang, yep. Before Odang, we were one of the biggest enterprises that had been started and founded on campus. We had 25 part-time employees, we had 4 full-time employees, we were pulling down about $250,000 a year in the year that those guys bought me out. I worked with them for a year. The founder there was also a UCF alumni. He was a little bit older, and he said, hey, I want to move on with my life, I have these other opportunities, do you want to buy this company back? And I was like, I just cashed out, I don't know. But I started looking at the numbers, and there was some real opportunity to get that business to well over what it was doing. So through a reverse buyback, which is pretty standard and pretty simple once you go through one, all it means is that you're kind of putting in your work and your salary along with a little bit of investment capital to then regain ownership of a company. So I did that. It took me a total of 24 months, so 2 years, to actually fully own College Stack. We grew it, we scaled it. It was a coupon book company. Sorry, I should have let off with that. It was a coupon book company that we would distribute all around college campuses that had discounts as well, so it was a natural integration with College Tickets. And when I first acquired it, we were at 3 schools. When I left it, we got to 8 schools. We were pulling down closer to $800,000 a year in profit. The company was doing well over $1 million in top line revenue, and we were up to 40 part-time employees and 8 part-time when we sold off a piece of it. So we sold off a piece of that company to a group out of Jacksonville. Basically what I had sold off was we had these paper assets, these actual physical coupon books, and we had a digital asset, we had an app. There was a company that was interested in the app. We sold them the app, made a good bit of money on that, and unfortunately, to make a very long story short, basically what had happened was that print, paper, magazine, advertising, all that, it was going south. Everything was going mobile, everything was going digital, everything was going web. So we lost a lot of market share. We lost really a lot of clients, and it just kind of had to die out after that, so we had to shut down that division. And that led into an opportunity for me to start this other company called Blurtbox with 3 of my classmates over at Rollins College in the MBA program. Blurtbox was kind of a natural follow-on to what I had been doing. It was in the hospitality industry, and what we did was we took qualitative, so meaning survey comments, if you will. So let's say you went to a restaurant and the fish was too cold. You put that in a comment. Now imagine if the restaurant's getting hundreds of these comments a day, or thousands a month, or hundreds of thousands a year. It's tough unless they have somebody checking every day to say, well, what does this data mean to us? So we have built a company that basically took that data and would analyze it for hotels, restaurants, airports, anywhere that had a lot of people going through it. So some notable deals that we had a partnership with Marriott. Papa John's was a client. We worked with the Greater Orlando Aviation Authority. We worked with the Orange County Convention Center. And we had a contract with Domino's as well. So it was a pretty big company. We got VC funding. It was my first time having to deal with the bullshit that is Silicon Valley and San Francisco. All those people are psychopaths, I can promise you that. I have venture partners in my name. It makes me sick every time I think that I'm part of a venture group. But yeah, with Blurbox, we started doing the whole thing of raising money. And that was kind of eye-opening. At first, it was incredible because I could do so much more than I had done with bootstrap businesses. I had $500,000 in financing in our first round. I mean, I was 20-something years old, $500,000 in the bank. It's like, what the fuck? You know, nobody's telling me how to spend it. It's crazy. You can hire people, you get nice offices, you get really cool swag, right? I mean, you're spending it on the company, but it really starts to take off. But then what happened was, or what happened to us is the common story with startups, that you get addicted to that capital. You start to realize, like, oh shit, I need more of this. So you go out and you fundraise again. And that's the story of what's going on in Silicon Valley and startups today. And so I went down that path because that's what you're taught. You're taught, hey, well, go raise more money. Your VCs want you to go raise more money. So we raised an additional round. We were valued at, I think, $6 or $10 million at that point. And I was looking at the books and I was like, you know, something's not adding up here. Revenue-wise, if we keep fundraising at the rate we're raising it, we're never going to be able to pay back the investors unless there's some dumb acquisition or an IPO, which is idiotic because, I mean, if you know anything about business, I mean, the likelihood of that happening is extremely rare. You know, and so it was kind of this ethical dilemma for me, and what happened was I was eventually, I was excused from my role as CEO of the company that I had started, which was pretty painful and brutal. I kind of had to go through a period of finding myself and making myself whole again after that whole situation ended. And that's where this came into place, started Financial News. I knew I wanted to come back. I know I'm an entrepreneur at heart, I can't do anything else, but I didn't want to come back with a startup after that experience. So this started Financial News. It was a way for me to start this podcast. I had an outlet. I was talking about a lot of the bullshit I had seen with venture capital, a lot of the problems I had seen with the industry, a lot of the problems that I had seen with startups. And it led to just some really cool relationships with big-time authors, big-time podcasters that I was able to partner with. And then from that, it just led to some really cool opportunities that eventually, to make another long story short, evolved into what I do now, which is I run this group called NorthStar Venture Partners. We're technically an investment bank. We offer the same services that the large investment banks offer to Fortune 500 companies, to entrepreneurs and startups. We focus primarily on private placements, so basically helping companies get fundraising money. I know it sounds funny considering what happened with Blurbox, but I'll explain in a later slide. We focus on mergers and acquisitions, so actually buying and selling companies. So, now, this is what I want to, oh, you capitalized my E. This is the first time I've seen this presentation. So I wanted to put this in here to kind of, again, tee up what I want to focus on today, which is this whole concept that entrepreneurs are not rock stars. Okay, every entrepreneur that you ever see or meet, or these people like Gary Vaynerchuk, you know, God bless him, Grant Cardone, whoever the fuck, right? I mean, you can take any of those names. They're just people, you know, and that's the thing about what's going on in entrepreneurship today is that entrepreneurs are portraying themselves as rock stars. All these fuckers are putting CEO on their Instagram and all this bullshit. You know, and it's a problem, and it's a real problem because that's not what it's like. You guys just saw my story. I mean, it's up and down and up and down and up and down, and it's probably going to go down again. I mean, that's just how it is. You know, the fact is that we have this issue today, this communication issue, where we think because we have all these tools like LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever it is, yeah, you can DM somebody, yeah, you can email them, that's great, but we're not approaching entrepreneurs the same way, or entrepreneurship the same way that we used to. The way that entrepreneurship used to work when I first got started was that you found somebody, a really good mentor that took you under their wing and that showed you the ropes. Now we've lost a lot of that because we're portraying these people as the rock star and the god and the person that's going to change my life, which is just not true. They're going to help you along the way, but it's just something that I want to kind of hammer in today and discuss. So on that point, think about all the people that have CEO of such and such startup in their LinkedIn or their Instagram, right? All that bullshit. They gotta have managing director. I don't know what you have in yours. 90% of these startups fail. So what does that really tell you? How many data points do we actually have to measure success of these people that have these things in their bios online? You really gotta start to peel the layers of the onion back and start to think about, okay, well, how am I really gonna make it as an entrepreneur? So with that in mind, just kind of framing that up, and we'll go back to that. This whole concept of kind of winning in entrepreneurship, I think, is misunderstood. And again, to tie it into what we were just talking about, winning is not this, yo, look at my Bentley. You know, it's not this, hey, check out this Rolex. you gotta read books, you gotta, all this bullshit they try and influence. No. I mean, come on, it's bullshit, right? No. You guys don't know. I mean, you know it's bullshit. I mean, God, it's so easy. I mean, scams, right? If it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true, right? If somebody calls you on a random phone number, hey, you just won a $10 million lottery, I just need your social security number, you gonna give it? No. So why are we so skeptical with that stuff, but we believe everything in a 10-second video online? And it's kind of gotten me to a point where, as you can tell, I'm a little frustrated by it because entrepreneurship is my life, it's my blood, it's the only thing I know. And to see what's happening and to see kind of this destruction or misunderstanding rather, of getting a lot of people to buy into these systems or just purchase my course or buy my videos and I'll teach you how to be an entrepreneur, it doesn't work. I'm sorry, but it doesn't work. I don't know if any of you have ever done some of those things. Maybe there's some good insight in that, but that's not how you win. There's only one way to win, which is to continuously play. But if you want to play, you have to start, and that's where I want to go with this. So, a lot of people always ask me, well, I have this idea, but I don't have this money, or I wasn't born with these connections, or I wasn't a good student, or bullshit. It's all fucking bullshit. You're lying to yourself every time you tell yourself one of those things, it's a lie you're telling yourself. If any of you, those of you that raise your hands, said that you want to start a business, and you're sitting here coming to this group, which is great, okay? We're going to talk about that in a second. But that's all you're doing is you're networking, you're going out and you're saying, one day I'm going to start this, or I'm going to save up enough money and do that, or when I have so-and-so many followers, I'll do this. Shut the fuck up, stop that. You're getting in your own way, because everything I've ever done, every single thing I've ever done, any of these businesses that you guys have seen, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. It's crazy. And then I sold 2 of them. And then sometimes people here, now they see me, oh, investment banker, and definitely cut this, or don't let my clients see this, but I mean, God, there's days when I look at James and I'm like, dude, what the fuck, what would you do? Because I don't know. Then he looks at me, he's like, shit. I end up working for this guy. Poor guy wanted to go work at Goldman. Anyway, so that's my number one. It's just, when you see those things, or when you see these videos, or when you watch these things on YouTube of, do this first, do that, just start. At the end of the day, it's like the Nike slogan, you just have to do it, just go out and start. Now, you kind of fucked up on this point, I'm gonna call you out. James went all the way to Dollar General to get pens and Post-it notes. Where are they?
It's my car.
In his car, is that useful?
I was gonna get it.
Is that you said no?
Okay,
Whatever. Well,
so anyway.
while that's good. Just get back to that slide I was on. While he does that, everybody in here has a phone out, right? Follow me on Instagram. No, I'm kidding. Open up your notes app if you can. I know it's cheesy. I hate these group fucking bullshit things, but I think it'll help at least one person in here. So if you have your phone, pull it out, open your notes app. Pretty good? Somebody give me a thumbs up.
What's your Instagram?
Nah, fuck out of here. That's good. I'll give it to you afterwards. So what I want you guys to do, those of you that have that business idea that you have, and those of you that do not have a business idea, maybe just have a goal for your existing business, have a goal for your own life, write that fucking thing down now. Just write it down. Type it out, write it down. I'll give you 30 seconds because I want some water and I'm dying. It's kind of hot up here.
Just a goal.
Just anything you want to achieve. A goal. I want to start this business. I want to run a marathon, whatever it is. Something. All right, if you're not, then you're probably texting, so I'm going to get back into it. So the reason I had you guys do that is because I used to be one of those people that was kind of, as you can tell, I'm very skeptical about a lot of things, but I had a couple of my buddies here, which we'll talk about in networking here. These guys are all older than me, you can tell. Anybody know Artie here? Domino's guy? My bald friend? He hates that, he's gonna kill me. I, my whole career, have been doing business with people usually about twice my age. My friend group right now, they're usually in their late 50s, early 60s. And I've learned a lot from doing business with people that are older than me because they get to a point where they're a lot less jaded. They get to a point where they have other responsibilities, family, and things to care about. And their business is definitely a priority, but they have ways to manage those things. And one of the things that my buddy Serge right here told me, and Artie echoed it too, was that if you can't visualize, right, what you're trying to achieve, if you can't visualize actually getting to where you want to get to, it makes it really tough after you start to follow through, right? And the whole goal here is we're trying to figure out how to win as entrepreneurs. So if you want to follow through, right, and I think we've gotten really good at this, especially with some of the bigger deals we've worked on. James has had the privilege now of really bidding on some of the biggest deals that I've ever won in my life. And before we do these deals, remember yesterday when we pitched, what did we do?
Right.
Well, first of all, we went to an offsite. So we went to an offsite meeting. We got out of the office. We had a big house on Melbourne Beach. We were just overlooking the water. And this was like the biggest deal that we had. And right just before we put some super jazz on, we were hanging out. And we were just kind of zen out. And we were visualizing. And I was asking them, I was like, picture yourself, what are you going to do, as douchey as it sounds, with the money once we close this deal? Right? And it's tough because on the one hand, you can't get so caught up, right, in just writing these things down and coming up with this plan that you don't actually act, which is why I started with acting. You actually have to take the action. But once you take the action, you have to find the energy and the motivation to keep going, right? And so if you have this goal, if you have this business that you want to start, if you have whatever it is that it's written down, and you have to stare at it every day, you have to look at it and hold yourself accountable, it becomes a lot easier to work on those days when you don't have the motivation. Because I'll promise you one thing, I'm not married, but everybody I know that's married says that that spark goes away after a little while, right? Same thing with this entrepreneurship bullshit. Drives you fucking crazy after a while. And there's plenty of days when I ask myself, I'm like, man, why do I keep doing this? It takes all my money, it takes all my time, it's taking my health, it takes my whole life. I mean, why do I keep doing it? And there's plenty of times when, in those moments, you want to quit. And if you can't visualize why you're doing what it is, I promise you this, you won't get very far with whatever that business is. So, to show you guys, I keep a card with me. I do this on my own. I have one side that's my mindset. Anybody can come up and see this afterwards if you want. And on the other side, it's my goals. And I keep this in my wallet. And because it's there, every time I pay for something, every time I go to the grocery store, every time I pay for gas, I have to remind myself, shit, that's right, I have goals that I want to accomplish, things that I want to achieve. And it keeps you on this really good track and on this really good path in those moments when you really do want to give up. So I would encourage you guys, whatever you wrote down tonight, maybe sit down later, think about it, meditate on it for a bit, and try and visualize yourself doing that thing and see what comes out of that. And sometimes what you find when you write these things down too, is that you're like, wait, that's not really my goal. That's the goal that everybody else wanted for me, or that's what I thought I wanted. And so it becomes a really good way to weed out the stuff that you don't want to do, which is as important as figuring out what you do want to do. Okay, on that note, moving forward. You guys are here, you're listening to me. On the one hand, that's cool. On the other hand, fuck me. To be totally honest with you guys, take what I say with a grain of salt. I'm one person with one opinion. I have my viewpoint, right? I have the things, the people, the relationships that have shaped my life. Maybe there's something you get out of what I say today. Maybe it was the goals thing. Maybe it's not. Maybe that doesn't work for you. In entrepreneurship, starting a business, chasing a dream, whatever it is. And by the way, with entrepreneurship, I kind of relate it more to like someone that's trying to become an actor or something like that. It's a dream, right? I mean, the fact of the matter is, you're really chasing something that's next to impossible. On the way up, what ends up happening is, maybe some of you already experienced this, but it becomes very prevalent once you get out of college. When you're young, right? It's like, hey, you can be anything you want to be. Oh, I want to be a ballerina. Yeah, you can do it. Oh, I want to be an astronaut. Yeah, you can do it. Oh, I want to be a baseball player. Yeah, you'll play for the Yankees, whatever, right? And then we get older, and then it's like, hey, pay more attention to your grades, right? What's going on there? And that's good, right? Because education is important. But your parents are maybe a little bit more like, or caretakers or friends, they start to focus on other things. It's what's realistic. You start to think of what's realistic. So the new dream, the new goal becomes, I want to get to Harvard. Fuck Harvard. I want to get to UCF. That's a good goal. But as you can see, we're kind of shifting here, right? And maybe you're that kid that wanted to be an astronaut, and UCF has a great aerospace engineering program. So hey, I'm going to go to UCF, and maybe I'll work for NASA one day. But you see what starts to happen? We're getting kind of further and further away from what that ultimate initial goal was. We get to college, and we have great experiences like this, where we can network with like-minded people. You guys can make friends. You guys can motivate each other. But I promise you, this is the saddest part about leaving college, and why I always want to stay involved, is that a lot of people lose that ambition after they leave here. Because what happens? Oh, well, the excuses come back. Bills are due, car payment, student loans. And what does that do? That kind of starts to pit us into this shit. Well, that job working for NASA, that's not going to happen because they're only paying me $30,000 a year, so I can't do that. I have to go to the place that's paying me $60,000 a year. Right? Now you're working in data analytics. God bless. I don't know how you analytics people do it. I told you, it was unfortunate to me. I'm being honest.
I know that.
But you start to get into this situation where all of a sudden, what you just wrote down, it just disappears. It's gone. It's not there anymore. And the problem with that is that while that's happening to us as human beings, everybody's narrative around us changes. Friends, family. On the one hand, if you're doing the right thing or the thing that they want you to do, they encourage you to take the job that pays $60,000 a year instead of chasing your dream and working for NASA trying to be an astronaut. Friends, even family, if you're actually chasing the dream and you do take the shittier job or you do take the risk, what are you doing? When are you going to get a real job? Why'd you do that? That's not smart, right? Have some of you started to hear that yet? I mean, that's a narrative that starts to develop. And so I put this in here because whatever it is you guys want to do, if you want to start a business, if you want to keep running a business, if you want to scale it after this, if you're a dreamer, if you want to be an actor, whatever the fuck it is, sometimes you just got to ignore people. You know, at the end of the day, advice is fine, but we live in this culture, this generation where everything on Instagram, oh, I eat healthy, I like this, I want a beer. You know, fuck it, I got a gut, but I'm cool. You know, like at the end of the day, it's all, there's so much bullshit around how we interact with each other as human beings because we're not always looking out for the other person's best interest. There's a lot of selfish motivation that we have as human beings, and so this problem that starts to happen with entrepreneurs that are just budding or maybe trying to build a business and it's getting tough, they get so sucked into whatever that advice is, but they never ignore it. They never know what to not listen to. That what I found to be extremely valuable is sometimes you're like, fuck that, I can do it. Sometimes you just have to not listen and chase because you have to push forward if you want to win. Now, that doesn't mean that ignoring people or not taking advice is the only step to actually getting there, but pivoting, right? I'm sure some of you, especially if you're into tech, entrepreneurship, whatever, are familiar with the term pivot. Sometimes you start with this dream, and as we said, as you naturally go through life, whatever it is, it might naturally shape itself, it might naturally change, or hey, you might actually change that dream. Maybe you thought you wanted to be an astronaut, but holy shit, I don't want to go to space, I don't want to die. I just want to work on the propulsion engine or whatever, right? That's cool, that's good. So now you're pivoting. So now you've learned from your experience, you're understanding kind of where you want to get to, and you're getting better every day. You're spending your time, your resources, everything that you have on honing in that skill. Now, the next piece, and the key piece, and I'm going to wrap up the presentation with this after James gets a chance to speak, is your network. Your network is your safety net. I went to the Rosen School. Anybody familiar with the Rosen School? The Rosen School does a very, very good job of forcing you to network. Because the truth is, hospitality professions in general, not to offend anybody I can say because I went there, are, they're skill-oriented in the sense that you have to have service and you have to have knowledge of menus and all that kind of stuff, but it's not extremely technical, right? It's not like learning to be a doctor, it's not like learning to be an engineer. So what does that mean? If you really want to make it, well, it's all about who you know, not what you know, right? And so the school does a really good job of forcing you to network, and I think the business school has done a great job of that as well. They do a lot of events, Knights does a great job with things like this, but in general, what I've learned is that the bigger your network is, the bigger your safety net is. When I was pushed out of my company, the one that I was showing you guys before, there were only a handful of people that I had that really had my back. But if I had a network with the hundreds of people, thousands of people, however many founders I met over my career, I might have never found these three, right? And so the key I think that people forget is it's like, well, I hear you're the product of the 5 people you surround yourself with most closely, or you should have a small circle of friends, a small circle, whatever. That's true, but how can you cherry pick the best of the best if you're not constantly meeting people? It's your safety net. It's where opportunities come from. The key with winning is that you have to be playing to win, and I'll talk about that in a second, but to talk about network. Anybody remember James here? He's a nice enough guy, that's it. Okay, all right. Well, James, like I said, was sitting where you guys were just a few months ago. Work for, or has a dream contact that they want to get involved with. Literally email them and say, yo, I'll do this for free, I promise you we'll fucking email you. No question about it. Any of you email me that you'll do something for free today afterwards? You can buy me a beer after. I'll help you out with whatever you want. So James, you want to come on and jump in?
Yeah.
You can take the clicker, it's right there.
So, some of you know me as James, some of you know me as Nana. My name is Nana, it's not a nickname, that's my real name. I graduated last year, yes, you can finish. Senior year was tough, Senior year was tough, but I powered through. I started a company called Think Space Media. We did digital marketing for small businesses, nonprofits. Started that in junior year. And by the time I got to my senior semester, obviously I've been running it for some time, had a few clients I was servicing, still am kind of running it, but died down a little bit. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. Obviously I have this goal, I know I want to be an entrepreneur, I know that in 10 years I want to own multiple companies and whatnot. So I got connected to Julien through a mutual contact, who was also coming to speak at CEO Nights.
The interesting tidbit was that he was supposed to speak there that day, and
Right.
it was a total chance.
Yep,
that we ended up being
chance
each other.
meeting, fortuitous.
Serendipity.
So anyway,
I dictionary.
I helped Julien with his personal website. It was phenomenal, and he really was impressed with my work product. After that, we
Pat
connected
yourself
over.
on the back. He does this in the office. Guys,
All of the time.
I kid you not. I kid you not. You know, like waste paper basketball.
Yeah.
He makes a shot, and I see him the other like, oh, nice shot.
So it's good to piggyback on that. I do that often. Like I prop myself, I give myself kudos. If you don't give yourself confidence, who's gonna give it to you? So self-confidence is very important. After we connected, or after the website gig, we got to talking about visions and what I want to do with my life. And it was kind of like a crossroads, because obviously I'm running this thing. It's not bringing in that much cash. Let me be honest with you. So entrepreneurship is tough. Yeah, don't believe all the hype. It's always going to be tough. Doesn't matter what you do. So it was getting tough. I'm like, you know what? I should probably get a part-time job. So I was definitely thinking along those lines. But another goal of mine, in 10 years, is to own a conglomerate. I'm originally from Ghana, not even from this country, which is why my name is weird.
Tell them what it means. It makes sense why you compliment yourself. What does it mean?
It means
French?
chief, like ruler.
Chief.
Yeah.
I literally would have to legally call him chief in certain situations. It drives me insane sometimes.
Yeah, so I want to own businesses in Ghana and across the world. And I knew that to get there, I had studied a lot of business leaders. Most of them had investment banking experience, management consulting. So I knew I wanted to go in that direction, but I was like, I don't know what the timeline is. So when we started talking, Julien was like, that's what he's doing. And I was like, oh shit, cool. So, so he offered me the chance to come work with him at NorthStar, doing research and everything. And I was like, that's interesting. And he said I could obviously still keep doing ThinkSpace. So I did that, still doing that. It's been an incredible journey. We've seen a lot of shit. I've learned a lot of stuff. And yeah, I was
Even curses in his presentations. Can I add something?
Yeah.
One thing to speak to James's character, and I think something that, if you guys are, juniors, seniors, or you're getting close to that kind of graduating level, even before, there's certain points in life, and it's happened to me a number of times now, I could literally tell you each time, but where you really are at that crossroads, like James was saying, where you kind of have these two options. We were talking about doing what's safe before, right, or kind of continuing on to do, what you want to do, and then maybe having to deal with some judgment or some bullshit or whatever. I offered James, when we sat down, I said, listen, I have pretty deep investment banking connections. He expressed interest in that. He knows it's a way to make a lot of money fast. So I basically told him, I said, listen, there's a good chance I could probably get you into Goldman or Societe Generale or one of the big investment banks on Wall Street. That's where I'm from, and I know, most of the top people that would be able to get you in. I said, I can get you in there, and I promise you, you're going to make good money, you'll have your benefits, whatever. I said, you can come with me, and I could show you how this thing is built from the ground up. And I said, it might take a little while. You're not going to get the same payoff that you will initially, but then, hey, you'll be number 2 at our shop instead of being number 5,586 at, Goldman's, or probably number 500,000, and so to James's credit, he had that right in front of him. He could have gone, taken that investment banking job right away, and he said, you know what? No, I want to learn. I want to see how this is built, and now he's on his way to making a hell of a lot more. So.
And the funny thing is, my friend does work at Goldman Sachs, and she likes it, but every time Julien and I are joking about something or we're having a lot of fun, I'm like, can't do this at Goldman. You really can't. So,
I think maybe even yesterday, guys, just so you understand, we pitched for the biggest deal of my life, which I would assume is definitely the biggest deal of your life. We pitched for this deal, and I said, James, I said, you know what? I said, why don't we just go to the beach? Why don't we just hang out? And that's what we did. We just went out, we got some pizza, we hung out at Sebastian Inlet, and we were just relaxing because we had to be in that right mindset to actually do the pitch properly. And so that's what he's saying. That we were kind of joking. I was like, hey, can we get this a Goldman? Beach day?
So it's a trade-off. That's what life comes down to. It's different choices you make. You're gonna struggle sometimes, but it's opportunity cost. I was an econ major, so kind of boring, but So it's opportunity cost. Biggest risk obviously was starting my own business. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. I got my first client through Craigslist. A little shady, but it worked, and just build from there. And I think the thing is always being open-minded about the paths that you take. Because I could have gotten a traditional job, but wanted to push through a ThinkSpace. I've learned so much, and trust your gut. Like I knew that Julien had something to offer, which is why I'm working there, and learning a lot.
Or vice versa. And as much as we joke, I mean, something that may look simple to you guys, but is impossible for me, even with yesterday's presentation. I am, even though I was a tech entrepreneur, I almost went shit with fucking computers. You know, the things that you learn even from the businesses, like we were talking about with pivoting, right? How you learn, you grow, you understand the things. James, even though he's really head of research and he wears a lot of hats, he does a lot of sales and all that for us too. One of the most valuable skills that he has when he comes to us is he understands design, he understands marketing, and he understands a lot of things that I don't understand. And so because of that, I saw that as an attractive quality for an employee, and I said, you know what? Here's a guy that, yeah, I'm going to be able to show him the ropes of what I know, but he's going to be able to take initiatives and even do things like, hey, make this presentation for today, which I couldn't do without him. I'd come here with some fucking logos and some curse words, and that's all you would have gotten. You know, so, I mean, think about that too, that even if you're nervous about trying that dream, starting that business, chasing that goal, you know, however nervous that you had to have been with ThinkSpace with the first client, right? It's nerve-wracking, you're taking the lead. Look, the skills translate a hell of a lot better than just going to work in fucking middle market corporate America. No offense to anybody who's dreaming about this, you know, but, you know, you take these skills and they stay with you forever, right? I mean, what you learned at ThinkSpace is not going anywhere.
Yeah, I'm still using it all the time. Making your presentations.
So that pat on the back. Go ahead.
Yes, I mean that's all I really want to wrap up with. You know, trust your gut. You know, you can collect all the data points you want, but you do have to start. You have to do something, and it metamorphosizes into something else. And you somehow, you know, I heard a good quote about how success isn't a straight line; it's zigzag. So things change. Your goal still remains the same. Your ultimate goal: you want to do this. You want to make a certain amount of money. That's always your ultimate goal. But how you get there doesn't really matter if at the end you're walking around happy, you're in your Mercedes, and life is good. You know, or a Porsche, but that's fine. I mean,
and I think that the biggest thing here is that when opportunity knocks, right, strike at it, guys. When I was at UCF, I saw a lot of my peers that had similar opportunities that I had, and they just never transacted on it. The thing that I say all the time with CEO nights, which is funny, is that I get a lot of really enthusiastic people afterwards, and it's always nice, and I appreciate it, that, you know, to come say thank you, or hey, thanks for coming in at this presentation. And I tell people, I said, look, you have my contact information. I'm a UCF alum. If you guys want to get coffee or beer, whatever, that's fine. Give my email, and maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 people out of, you know, sometimes groups that are bigger than this actually follow through with that. And, you know, it's the truth, isn't it, that when opportunity strikes, you just have to seize it. You just take it. I mean, you got to try, and, you know, it's scary. You don't know where the fuck you're going. You're jumping into a dark hole, you know, but the fact of the matter is, you're going to learn something from that experience, even if it is outside your comfort zone. So, yeah, kudos to you. You know? Yeah. You want to hang out there? Because we'll probably get to Q&A here soon. So. And you can talk so just to kind of wrap things up, guys, and I want to get into Q&A here. But NorthStar Venture Partners, maybe I should start with what we do here first. You can take a look at this. Want to turn the volume up a little bit? Everybody kind of see it decent? Just lie, just say it. I'll tell you about it anyway. Basically what we do, we're NorthStar Venture Partners. We're a different kind of investment bank that focuses on working with startups and entrepreneurs. Obviously with a decade of experience under my belt, it's not a business that you can kind of just jump in and start without having, you know, the understanding what happens when you sell a business, or the understanding what happens, you know, in your fundraising, whatever it is. But for me, it was still a jump. I was jumping from what I know at my heart, at my core, you know, who I am, which is a startup entrepreneur. I was making a jump from founder to finance. Now, James, I promise you, is 1,000,001 times smarter than I am. I'm a hack compared to this guy, okay? You know, but the thing is, understanding that I knew things from my past that would allow me to operate in this space made me okay with saying, hey, I can run a finance shop, even if I'm not this person that's phenomenal with Excel sheets or phenomenal with econ, because I have real world experience. So I think that's something else to think about too, guys, is that you have your trained experience and you have your real world experience, and sometimes opportunities to make a change or to start something don't just have to come from something you're classically trained in. If you grew up doing something really good, maybe that's an opportunity for you. It was an opportunity for me. Like I said, we're still learning every day. I'm still learning every day. You can't be so afraid to try something or start something, right? Which is what we're talking about here, how to win. That you go and you say, well, there's a lot I'm going to have to learn. It's going to be too tough. I don't know that stuff yet. To not, go through and follow up with it. Taking risks, again, piggybacking on what you just said. If you don't have, the ability to get outside your comfort zone, it's very rare that you're going to see massive reward, because it's the age-old saying that with great risk comes great reward. And yes, you're going to fall flat on your face sometimes. We've fallen flat on our face plenty of times already in the short amount of time that NorthStar's been around. But without those failures, or without those stepping stones, which is what I like to call them along the way, we never would have gotten the opportunity to get the deal that we got yesterday. So, taking risks is very important, in any business, even at our stage. Be real with your clients. That's the number one thing that we have, is we don't work with assholes. We don't work with arrogant founders. And we're very straightforward and direct with our clients, because they know when you're bullshitting. So especially, and I like to put that in here for the CEO Nights presentations. When James first came to work for me, this was cool. I do wear shorts at the office pretty much every day. We're in Florida, for crying out loud. I don't understand why the fuck people wear suits down here. But James came in basically dressed to the nines, dress shoes, all that, dressed for success. I swear I thought he might have had cufflinks on, okay?
Yeah.
But, and that's great, and that's cool, and he's making a good impression, and that is important. But I think sometimes we do too much of that when we're young, because we look at, oh, well, this person's 40 or 50 years old, or oh, they've been in business this long. We kind of give them this unfair power over us. Remember, the most important thing in business, especially if you're a founder, especially if you're running your own business, is to be real, is to be who you are, because that's what makes people feel comfortable. So if you're trying to get your first client, like you did on Craigslist, sitting up there and saying, oh, well, I've done work for Sony and NASA, whatever, that might be good, but hey, when they find out that you didn't do that, you're in a lot more trouble than if you just said, look, it's my first job. I know there's probably going to be some mistakes, so normally for my time, I'd have to charge you like $2,000 for this, but I'll do it for $500 just because I want to win your business, I want to win your loyalty, and that's being real. That's the most important thing. It's not about what you wear, it's not about what you say, it's about who you are, what your character is, and what your ethics are. And then staying humble. On the one hand, entrepreneurs, we have to have this self-confidence, right? We have to go out there and believe in ourselves and be these unnatural optimists, right? We have to be these people that see the best in the world, because, hey, it's a really tough game. But you can't let it get to a point where it's all about your ego, right? You can't let it get to a point where having CEO in your Tinder profile, right, or having CEO in your Instagram is more important than actually doing the service and doing the work for your clients. Because at the end of the day, as cliche as it fucking sounds, it's still just a shit ton of hard work. That's all it comes down to. These are just some of the partners that we work with, more of a bragging slide than anything else for clients, so just repurposed it. Already saw the video. Okay, so again, to tie this all up, right, how do you win? Right, that's the whole concept here, is how do we get past the bullshit, how do we start, and how do we win? There's only one way to win. It's not to sell a company, it's not to ultimately achieve your dream, it's to continuously keep playing. If you stay in the system, if you stay trying to chase your dream, whatever it is, if you stay trying to build that business, yes, that dream might fade away, that business might fail, that opportunity might be taken off the table. But another one comes up, and another one comes up, and another one comes up, and you keep going, you keep pushing, you keep moving forward. There's too many people that I see today that, because of that whole notion that I'm doing this for the image, I'm doing this for my Instagram profile, I'm doing this for my Tinder, once they start and the first one dies in 3 months, which is pretty normal, 90% of these things fail, that's it. That's it. Time to go get my job, move on, because I failed. That's not what I fail every fucking day. You guys have seen my story. I've had tons of money, I've had no money. I've had a good bit of money, I've had bankruptcy and lawsuits. It's just, you can't go through any dream, especially entrepreneurship, thinking that there's one way to win or that there's one magic pill. There's not. This is the only trick, is that you have to start and you have to keep playing. That's ultimately how you get to where you want to go. And so what I was trying to, I guess, tell people, really it's more begging to the entrepreneurs that I get phenomenal opportunities like this to speak to, is, for the love of God, please just try something, try anything, learn, because that's how you succeed. So thank you guys for that. Be nice if you clap now. Okay, let's do some Q&A. So we have one other slide after this that we'll pull up that has some contact information and also some other opportunities for employment if anybody's interested. So it's my way of getting you guys to stick around and not ditch us. So Q&A, anybody have any questions on anything? Go ahead.
You said you needed Jesse Wolf, were you part of Upstarts as well?
Nah, man, I was a different generation. We didn't even have the launch pad. We didn't have shit, and I was at Rosen, so there was like no resources. I had the CI, which was really cool, and I had a couple professors that helped me out. I didn't know Jesse through that. I knew Jesse through a mutual friend as well, who was basically like, hey, you gotta meet this guy, Jesse Wolf, you get along with him real well. And the first time I met Jesse, he's just like, it's like your best friend from the minute you meet him. And we were just kind of sharing war stories and stuff, so we just got, connected. We've been friends ever since. So that's how I met him. Was that the question?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I was like, shit, is that what it is? Yeah.
What's your favorite beer?
Favorite beer? Shit, what do I like the most?
Vortex. IPA.
Nah, that's only because we what?
He loves IPAs though.
Yeah, IPAs. Usually Lagunitas or a Highlight or something. So
Okay.
that's a good question.
Sierra
I'll let you buy
Nevada.
me whatever. Oh, the Sierra Nevada. Yeah, please.
So I heard even before you started, I looked up a little bit about you, and
Analyst, nice. He does that.
Actually, yeah, my job recommended to me was market research analyst. So
Nice. Okay.
So I'm a marketing major, but you were looked up and it said so you have your podcast and stuff like that. I listen to them sometimes, so I was wondering how you started with that.
Okay, cool. So right now we're between seasons, by the way, so there's no active episodes coming out until March. Right, somewhere around there. How did I start with it is your question?
Yeah.
$50. So you need about $50 is, because everybody always asks, like, oh, well, you had all this money to start. No, I was still, going through bankruptcy with the last business. So I went on Amazon. Well, actually, before I went on Amazon, I signed up for this thing called Zencast.fm, which is just like a hosting thing for podcasts, so it can be published everywhere. And I kept getting in my head. I had show ideas written out. And I had done speaking, I had been in front of cameras, I had been on radio shows, but when it's you putting yourself out there, it's extremely nervous. You're are people gonna hate me? When somebody listens to this, are they gonna think I'm the worst person in the world? Am I saying something that could be slander, libel, right? You just kind of start to get in your head, which is what I was trying to dispel with this whole presentation. But the way I started was, I signed up for that thing and I couldn't post. I kept recording bullshit on my iPhone, but I couldn't post it. And so it was holding me back because I was so nervous to actually hit post. Full transparency, just because you asked, I'll be honest with you guys. I just sat down, I had a couple beers, and gave me a little bit of that liquid courage. And I started recording on my iPhone. You can listen to episode 1. I might even have a little bit of slurred speech. And I recorded the thing, but it was that night that afterwards I celebrated too, because I was I recorded it, so I probably opened some whiskey. And then I hit post. And I woke up the next morning, it was up. And you know what? I was still alive. The world didn't fucking end. Nobody sued me. I'd been sued, 10 times, but then I was like, all right, that's good, that works. And it had a whole, a massive audience of 4 listeners, my mom being 2 of those people, because she has 2 accounts. So, it's all right. Basically the way I started was just one night I said, fuck it, right? That's the easy answer. But the real kind of way that I started it afterwards was then I invested $50. I got a microphone called the Blue Snowball microphone, which was the first one I used, which was great up until we stopped using it a few months back, which was on sale, I think, for $29.99. So that was a $30 investment. The hosting was $10 a month, and then there was one other subscription, an editor that I needed to pay on Upwork for $10 to actually edit the episodes and to get some music in them. If you're wanting to start one, I actually have a guide that I wrote out because people ask me that question all the time. So I'd be more than happy to send it to you because I feel like I'm starting to ramble, but that's how I started it. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Sure. I keep skipping you. So.
Yeah, no, you mentioned that after that tough business venture, after that ended, you needed some time to refocus and sort of recenter. And so I wanted to hear a little bit about that process. Whenever I feel like entrepreneurs go through that burnout a lot. What did you do to kind of refocus?
Yeah, to go into it would be a super long story, and I'm going to try and give you the most impactful but shorter version that I can. It was tough. For me, it was my identity. I've since learned not to make a business an identity, but I've gone through some other things in my life in the past, which one could argue would be more traumatic than losing a business, right? And so, you just kind of mentally, you don't think about, well, if I lost this business, whatever, because, whatever, you lose them every now and then, it's fine. This was the biggest one that I'd ever had. I was starting to get a name in San Francisco. I was starting to kind of be in that crowd and all that. And when it was ripped away from me, everything was. My social life was ripped away. My income was ripped away. It got so bad I lost my home here in Florida, I lost my car, and I had to go back home with my parents for a period of, I think it was 18 months. And, you know, I guess the way I got through it, it wasn't pretty. You know, I'd be lying if I said, you know, I probably was going out a little bit too much and things like that, right? Because you're trying to cope with it, but, you know, on the one hand, if you really are chasing what I would call your natural dream or what your real dream is, no matter what, even when you're going through some terrible failure, you kind of have this one little string, like this one little piece of like, I know I'm going to be okay. You know, like I know I'm going to make it, but right now sucks. But you have, just because it's a real dream, you have enough of that thread, like enough of that little bit to say like, I'm just going to put one foot in front of the other today. One foot in front of the other. And there were days when I was going through that where like, I always use Wunderlist, which drives him crazy because he uses Trello, but my Wunderlist, it just had like a list of all this shit. It was nasty shit. It was like, you know, call back the lawyer, pay this lawsuit off, pay this debt, you know, whatever. It wasn't like, there was nothing fun on it. And I kept making this mistake of like trying to just sit there sometimes and do everything at once, right? And then my buddy Serge, who you saw in that picture before, he told me, he said, listen man, I've been there before, I've lost businesses bigger than yours. He goes, you do one thing, baby steps, every day, and that's it. He goes, if it takes you 20 minutes, that's fine. If it takes you 2 hours, that's all you do for the day. If it takes you 2 seconds, that's it, right? If it's a phone call and the person doesn't pick up, it's fine, celebrate it, right? And so it was learning that even in the good times, because that's how you should be too, because it keeps you focused, but really in the bad times, you just got to one foot in front of the other. You're not running anymore. It's just this little half step, but that half step is progress. And then he told me, he goes, what will happen is that will compound. Over a certain period of time, you'll have made these baby steps for 30 days, as opposed to making no progress for 30 days because you're trying to do everything at once. And then you look and, holy shit, I left that all behind. So that's how I got through it. You know, it was that little thread, that understanding that, yeah, one day I will make it, I'll get it all back, and then just putting one foot in front of the other. There's no trick to it.
Awesome. What a story, man.
Thanks. Yeah, no worries. Yes?
During your undergraduate years, or I guess your college years in general, did you ever work at all?
Yeah, I did. I've been working since I was 13. So
and how did you balance that with everything?
I mean, school was relatively. So, I mean, Rosen's not like the most difficult program, to be totally honest with you. Probably, again, I shouldn't say that, but I told you guys I don't have like a lot of. I have some enemies at UCF because of the shit I say, but you know, the whole balancing act thing, right? I don't really know the answer to that. I think people ask me sometimes about work-life balance, and we live in this culture which is, you know, very oriented to like self-help, self-wellness, which is great. You know, and I encourage this thing. But I mean, look at me, I'm definitely not the healthiest or the wellest. But let me see. I mean, to explain it, so I worked at Swan and Dolphin. I worked at Walt Disney World for the first 2 years that I was in college here, and I've been working, like I said, since I was 13 up until then, changing trash cans, cleaning toilets at different places, whatever. And Swan and Dolphin was like a really cool job for me because I know that I want to own hotels one day. So I think it's kind of a two-part answer. If you're working somewhere or in something that you know you want to ultimately do with your life, it does make it a heck of a lot easier to balance it because you're kind of reminded that yes, I have this schoolwork, but it's equally as important for me to do good at this job because this job is going to get me far just like my schoolwork is going to get me far. So I think like if you can align yourself as much as possible to like working in a place or with a person or with a group that aligns with what you're trying to do with your life, it does make it naturally easier because you don't feel the same, you know, oh shit, I gotta go to work and drag your feet, you know, it's like, that'll naturally drain your energy. And then I think the second piece was, you know, it was really understanding that if you're gonna, you know, work, chase a dream, go to school, network, whatever it is, like you're just gonna have sacrifices. You know, I mean, you're going to have to cut stuff out. I mean, I did cut out a good part of my social life. I lost a good bit of my friends while I was, you know, even in college doing those things in the early years because it was so much work. It was working at Swan and Dolphin, it was building the business, and it was going to class. You know, and so I had people that were pissed off at me, and they were like, oh, we don't see you, or whatever. And fucking junior, senior year, when I had all this money, they're like, oh, let's go party, let's go party. So I guess it evened out because I had a really fun senior year. But, you know, it's knowing that, and I think sometimes that we forget that, yeah, there's going to be some sacrifices, you know, and as if you can find those two things and you can say, okay, I'm going to do something, work somewhere, try and find an opportunity with something I like. I think Jacken actually does a really good job with that, right? I mean, we talk about photography and video, and I mean, look, right? Don't you still have fun doing it? Yeah. Unless you got to film a guy like me. But so, you know, that would be kind of my answer, which is a little bit unorthodox, but try and find something that you like, and then realize that there's going to be some sacrifices, and just accept the sacrifices. Can you add anything to that?
It's the same thing. Like I made sacrifices. I was working out I've worked ever since I came to this country, and obviously done school. My last semester I was doing 7 classes. I was running my business. And I was PR director of CEO Nights. You just make sacrifices, but you do make time for like things you want to do, like if there's some special person in. Jesus. But you do set those expectations that I'm going to be busy.
Can't get enough of this
Right.
shit anymore. Anyway, so I hope that helps.
No, thank you, I appreciate it.
Sure. Yes.
What do you think is like, well, I guess this could be like relative, but like getting experience at like a company, like let's say you want to do like gain experience or like knowledge from like consulting, management consulting, by being in, like not being your own, like not having your own company,
Sure.
but like working first to gain experience by being like within and then branch out, or do you think kind of just going in and trial and error, like? what
Yeah,
do you
it's a
more?
good question. I want to let James talk about a piece of that in a second here. But I guess your question is essentially, right, like, am I saying that it's wrong to like go work somewhere and then try something? Am I essentially saying like start now, right?
I guess like what's more beneficial? Like what do you think? Like personally,
Right.
your
So
opinion?
2 things on that. Number 1, you should take everything that I say with a grain of salt, right? Like, you know, as a person, if you really do that, you know, searching, when you really, for me, I find that when I'm like the most relaxed and I start to think about like a goal or dream, that's when it becomes clear. Because I don't have like the everyday bullshit, rah, rah, rah. I can actually think straight. So that's how it started, is that somewhere deep down, you know what you want to do and you know what's right for you. To answer your question as to, you know, is it wrong or whatever to go work somewhere versus, you know, starting right away? No, absolutely not. In fact, I mean, I think that that's sometimes the best path for an entrepreneur, right? Is if you really don't know a space, or if you really have a passion for something but you don't have enough knowledge on it, the best way, the easiest way to learn is to get paid by somebody else to make mistakes at their company. But you know? So on the one hand, right, that's a phenomenal way to start. What I would say is I would urge you to kind of go back to that cheesy little exercise we did of writing something down in your notepad or on a piece of paper, whatever, and that goal, and start to think about, well, what does that goal really mean to me? What does that goal say? What does it dictate that I do? Right? Because maybe somebody here wrote down, I want to start, you know, my coffee roasting business. And maybe they know in their heart of hearts that they're going to be able to do that because they have a friend who owns a coffee, you know, planted farm or a coffee shop or whatever it is. So they have the right connections. Maybe for that person, it's to jump right in. Because they might not know everything, but like their situation is telling them like, yeah, I have enough degree of confidence that, okay, I can start this thing. If you're totally like, whoa, I have no idea what I'm doing, yeah, I mean, I would suggest learning from somebody else. That's what I was going to say. I mean, I think the benefit of that is not only getting paid while you're on the way up, you're also not having to deal with the lawsuits or the taxes or the employment, you know, bullshit or whatever. But you know, you get to witness everything firsthand if you find a mentor, if you find someone that's going to take you under their wing. And I think what's interesting also, actually, this kind of adds to your answer with the balance thing. James, contrary to what he'll tell you, is assigned to work 10:30 to 6:30. Yes, we work very nice hours. I have never seen this guy leave this office before 9 p.m. It drives me insane because then I have people coming into me the next day, oh, why do you work him so hard? Why is this guy always here? I always see you leave at 7 o'clock. You know, so I've caught him in there at 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm just getting ahead for a while. I'm like, what the fuck? What is this guy doing? I set them all at 6:30. You know, and so maybe you can speak to that, right? Because I think that piggybacks on the work-life balance and on the whole, you know, if you're learning.
I mean, honestly, I think you shouldn't take advice from me because, I mean, he's right. I'm a little bit of a workaholic, but like, when you want to chase something, you go really hard. And I've always been a very hard worker, so that kind of explains it. But at the same time, he's right if you can balance the two of them, because to me, it doesn't feel like work. Like, I love being at the office. Weird as it is to say, we have a great community there. He's a great mentor. I've learned a lot of stuff from him. So yeah, like if you can find that, it really is ideal. Because I mean, I didn't really know much about finance. Like yeah, you learn through textbooks and stuff, but you would have gone to Goldman, would have done the same thing. It's like looking for a job to get experience. But this kind of combined both of them because yeah, I'm still running my business, but I'm learning from him. You can minimize the mistakes you make along the way, which I think is really valuable.
And so I think you see like the two, that's why I wanted the answers. You kind of see the two paths right in front of you. You could jump in, right? Like maybe you have to take a shit ton of risk and all that kind of stuff. And you know, he's taking enough of a risk, you know, understanding, you know, earnings and deals and all that kind of stuff and how his compensation is affected by that. And you know, I don't think there's a right way. I don't think there's a wrong way. You know, I think it's just at the end of the day, it's more important when I say start, it's that you're taking action, whatever it is that you wrote down. You know, so hope that helps.
Thank you.
All right, we could probably do a few more, and we'll hang out after. I'll probably go to a bar after if you guys want to hang out. Yeah.
So what kind of clients are you guys usually getting? Like, is it a specific field or anything, or like do you guys usually work in products? Or?
Pretty heavily oriented to tech companies,
Okay.
I'd say. Primarily like tech startups, but when we say startups, we're talking about like the mature ones, not. Unfortunately, as much as we used to in the past, we used to work with anybody that had an idea that they wanted to get financed,
Yeah.
but now it has to be, it's typically like our minimum threshold is you're doing about $5 million in top line revenue, about $1 million in EBITDA. And we're looking to sell these companies for 5, 7, 10x multiples. So we try and operate in the sub 500 million space for deal size. And, that's what we do. Anybody else? We're good? Okay, a couple other things. If anybody wants my book, if you find it on Amazon and you think it's not a whole bunch of horseshit, you find it interesting, thank you so much, I'm honored. You don't have to pay me the $3.99. Fucking Amazon's going to take a good bit of it, or $12.99, I'm going to get $3.99. So we can say fuck you Amazon, and I can send it to you directly, so just email me. I'll give you guys my email here. We have a couple of interesting things for people here. Obviously, James's situation is pretty cool. Literally, I hired him from where you guys are sitting, so this stuff really does happen. You just have to follow through. Poor James was promised a job in July. He didn't start working for me until end of September, so you have to be persistent and patient. So we work out of a place called Venture X, and we really love these people. They're much more than just landlords. They become friends. They are really good people. It's an entrepreneurial type of co-working space, and the founders are very entrepreneurial at heart themselves. And they're looking for potentially some interns for this semester to help them out in 2 different divisions, sales and operations. It's a really cool experience. You're around probably 50, 60 companies and groups like ours, other entrepreneurs. So not only working there, you get compensated and getting to work with some great people, but you get to network and go to all the events and meet a whole bunch of people like us that are insane and trying to make money somehow. So. And then for us, NorthStar, some pretty cool stuff. James kind of screwed you guys because he took the position last year. So we don't have any open positions at the moment because we're pretty well staffed, but we do have a need for an intern relatively soon here. We'd like to find one this semester, and I prefer UCF over Rollins. I'll never admit that I said that. But we're looking for someone that has an interest in investment banking, that has an understanding of not necessarily sales directly, but relationship building. Somebody in head of accounts kind of division or role. So if anybody's interested in interning with us, working with us, learning more from us, 2 things for this, for these internships. You can email me. This is my email, Julien@NorthStarVP.com. You can also email me about any bullshit I said today. You can call me out on something. You can say I said something wrong. Or you could just ask me for coffee or beer, and I'm happily engage. Again, these are both downtown. For this internship for us, I don't want to see resumes. I want them to go to him. So email James@NorthStarVP.com. If you have a resume to send us, we're interested in working with us. So thank you guys once again. Appreciate it.